What's up, folks, and welcome to Indie Showcase. I got something a little bit more casual for you today, perhaps, but still something that's pretty interesting. So this is Skeletal Avenger, and it's one of the more recent offerings from Finnish developer 10 Tons. I've always really liked these guys. They crank out games at, frankly, a crazy pace. They roll their own engine, and they tackle different kinds of genres, and everything they make is very different from each other. Their games always have a bit of a casual edge to them, but I quite like them because they're always really well made, and even though they may not be the most hardcore of titles, they're still quite enjoyable. They're really a unique developer, a very small team too. They're quite a talented batch. This was in early access for a while, but it just launched fully, and it's basically, well, it's kind of a more casual Junior Diablo type thing, I guess, if you want to call it that. And, you know, hardcore ARPG players may find it a little simplistic, but I've been having some fun with it, and it's a good thing. Like a lot of 10 Tons games, it's a good thing to kill a little bit of time with, and that you can just have some fun without a lot of, huge commitment, if you will. So there is a story to this. The idea is you're a skeleton that's been raised from the dead. You're trying to take, you're trying to avenge something both for yourself and for this weird wizard person here. And this is sort of your hub world here. So the way things work is you have upgrades that you can purchase with money that you earn by doing your different quests and missions, or avengings as they call them. And you can dump this into things that give you permanent upgrades. They pitch this as a roguelike or roguelite. It is, but it's pretty simplistic in that. This is the permanent progression you have, and you do play the game in runs. Your character doesn't, as you can see, because my character's nearly dead here, you don't get your health back in between missions. And though you can heal at different points in missions if you're lucky, once your character dies, your run is over and you spawn in again and you tackle it again. So you have that. There are things called trinkets that you can pick up. You can only have one of these equipped at a time, and you can change to any of the ones that you picked up in your hub area that give you certain permanent benefits. You have perks, which are things that you get one of these per new level in a run, but you lose them all when your run is over. So they're only a per run thing. As you can see, there's quite a number of these actually, and I've already unlocked a decent number of them. There is a gear vendor. I found at this point I haven't really had to buy much from this place, but you can do that. There is gear in here, and this is your inventory. You can sell stuff from here, but it's a little bit clunky because there's no real easy comparison system in the store, and if you want to sell something, you got to go into your stash, click on it. I can't do this now because I have it equipped. Go down to the sell option and do that for each item. There's no junk system. There's no easy way to mass sell things, which is a little bit of a bummer. And you've got your statistics here, which is always kind of cool. So when you want to start a mission, you go here. Now this is what's interesting about this. So by completing these missions, you will pick up these, I actually forget what it calls them. I think they're called demon stones or something of that nature. It's those red stones that you see on the right here. And you can pick a level, and depending on how hard it is, you'll get more of these stones in the end. And in order to clear out each area of the land, you have to attain a certain amount to unlock the boss. So I've already beaten the first area, but you can see here in the second area, I need 50 in total, and that allows me to take out the boss. There's 2 more areas after that, and then you can do effectively a new game plus and keep going from there. It's kind of a cycle, it's kind of a grind, but that's really what, ARPGs are like. That's kind of the deal, right? So let's just do an easy one here so that I can show you. You can play the game in local only co-op, which is kind of fun. I haven't had a chance to do that, but it does look fairly easy to set up. Local only, not online, unfortunately, but not the biggest thing. In the area of Steam Remote Play and Parsec, it's not as big a deal as it used to be. So you see here that you get a layout of what the level's going to be, and you'll have the opportunity to pick your path to determine which levels you want to go to based on the type of things that you want. Some levels will have healing fountains in them. This doesn't, so I'm probably not going to make it through this even though it's easy. You can see there's weapon racks there as well, and those skeletons that have the little blue orbs over them are additional perks that you can pick up. So here you are. Now, I'm playing with a controller, though you can easily play this with mouse and keyboard as well. So the concept is pretty simple. You got a light attack, you got a heavy attack, which not only does more damage, but does a little bit of a break on the enemies. Most of the enemies in the game can be fairly easily stun locked. So you see here, here's one of the skeletons I talked about. I can get a perk. Now, this is actually a nice one. No perk, just instantly heal 40%. I think I could use that right now. There we go. And you also have this dash key, which is useful for not only dodging enemies, but for getting over traps like that. So, and the little notches beside me indicate the amount of uses you have. It always recharges, but you are limited in your use. You've got a mini-map down in the bottom corner, or you can do the old school Diablo thing of doing this, which pulls up a little overlay map. Some people really like this, some people really hate it. So the fact that it's a toggle, I think, is very nice. I'm not gonna lie, it's funny. This is one of those things where I don't actually like the overlay map. Like, I don't like the sort of how it makes the game kind of hard to see, but I also use it all the time because it's just so bloody convenient rather than trying to find your way around. So, yeah. So in each of the different zones, you're going to encounter different enemies and different environmental types. All the levels are procedurally generated, so every run is different. And you are seeing here some of what's going on. So some of the enemies fire projectiles, some of them do AoE things. There's AoE objects in the environment there, as you can see. Some of them are just straight up melee. And there are times when you're going to be juggling some really gnarly groups of enemies, and you've actually got to really do some crowd control. Now, this being an easy level and also in the first zone, this is not terribly difficult, but it gets tough. Some of the levels I've done in the second zone that I'm in now, they don't mess about, for sure. So what you can do is, if you can find the different directions out, you can actually leave a level without clearing it out. If you do, you get some extra money, and also the game pops up portals, which usually, but not always, will allow you to go to anywhere that you like. In this initial zone, you're probably going to want to do it this way because clearing out the levels are not that difficult. In the later areas, when things start to ramp up, you might just want to say, screw this, I just want out of here. And here you go as well. You'll find items occasionally that you can pick up and equip. It does give you a comparison here, which is nice. If you don't pick it up, you can't really store it, though it does show up in your stash after the fact. So again, it's a little bit more casual in that you don't really have to worry about hardcore inventory management when you're playing and spending a lot of time in menus, organizing stuff, and figuring out what you want to keep, what you want to sell, etc., etc. The game just kind of handles that for you, which is nice. This is where I think 10 Tons has always really shined in their game designs, is they have games that are casual enough that they're very good to pick up and play for people who may not be very experienced with games. But they have enough ramping in the difficulty and enough of a good gameplay loop that hardcore players will often be fairly entertained by them as well. It's a very hard balance to do that, and I find a lot of developers are not good at it. They're good at one or the other, either making a hardcore title or a casual title. And nothing wrong with that. You don't have you don't have to straddle that line necessarily. But these guys have always done that, I found, and done a really good job of it. 10 Tons has made all kinds of games. They made ARPGs like this. They've made roguelikes like Neon Chrome. They've done more arena-based action titles like Jidge or Yidge. I know it's Judge, but it looks like Yidge. So, which I've actually covered on this channel before. And they do, well, hose that one up. So, oh, that's right. Aha, but I have a trinket equipped that gives me 1 resurrection. Oh, I forgot about that. Sweet. All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the boots I've got. And this is why this developer fascinates me so much, because they not only straddle the line of making really good casual yet hardcore games, but they do all kinds of different genres, and they always seem to do a pretty good job at just about anything they choose to dip their toes into. And given that they're such a small team and the sheer volume of these things that they managed to crank out, like at one point in the span of 1 year once, I think I got press releases for 3 different games they were working on that were all set to come out either permanently or in early access that same year. It was mental. And yeah, it's really impressive. So I also forgot to show you one other thing here. So we've got the 2 attacks. You also have this. Yeah, you have the ability to throw your head. And you can actually damage enemies with that, and you can have perks like one of the ones you saw there that allow you to actually do extra damage with your head. So what happens is when you throw it, you either got to go pick it up, or if you hold the button and you really wait for it, you can recall it back to you. There's also perks that will automate that for you. The reason I forgot to do that is, I'll be honest with you, is that outside from the occasional boss fight, I've really barely ever needed it. I found that because you lose it after a while, that I haven't really found it that helpful. Now, so here we go. When you get to the end, you got to fight a boss, and you'll see creatures like that where you see that it has not only a health meter but another yellow line underneath that. That's armor. And when you come across armored enemies, what that means is that it's not only additional damage that you have to do to them, but when they are armored, you can't stun them. So you see here that when I do my normal attack against most enemies, they pretty much constantly get stun locked as long as I keep it up. If they're armored, you don't have that impact. So you've got to really watch yourself to make sure that you're actually going to be able to hit them properly, and that you're going to be able to keep them stun locked. Or you've got to make sure that you use either your skull attack or, you know, heavy attacks and back off enough until their armor is down so that you can take them out properly like that. Some of the bosses in this game are not too bad. Others are brutal. I've had a few where I felt like I was just getting out by the skin of my teeth. It is mostly pattern memorization. Once you know a boss's attack pattern, they're relatively easy to avoid. But again, hasn't really been a big problem for me. And as you begin to level up your permanent stats and get your statistics up and your dodge ability and things like that, you're going to find that things get a little bit easier as you go. At least in areas like this. Once you get into a new area, you're going to find things potentially quite intimidating and maybe a little bit overwhelming. But again, you keep working at it, and if you want, go back and work on, grind out some earlier levels, and you'll build yourself up, and suddenly you'll walk in and find things are going not so bad. That's generally how ARPGs work. Again, these guys know the formula, and they know how to apply it very well. It's just that this is definitely not as hardcore as something like a Diablo or a Grim Dawn or something like that, is because you don't have complicated character stats to deal with. You don't have complicated, you don't really have classes to deal with. You don't have complicated inventory management, anything like that. It really cuts down a lot of that stuff and makes it more about the raw dungeon crawling experience. And some people are not going to like that. I mean, heck, big ARPGs like that are popular for a reason, right? People like having to do all that stuff and having to manage all those things and those disparate elements. Nothing wrong with that. I like those kinds of games too, quite a bit, in fact. But nah, I'll stick with mine. I like those things quite a bit too, but if you want something that doesn't require that amount of time investment, that doesn't require you to spend hours, on one level. Oops, here we go. It's, this is easier. It's more casual. It's something you could grind out a couple of levels for over your lunch break. You can also choose to save and quit out at any time, which makes things a little easier. It's not like something like Diablo where you're basically committed for the most part once you get in. It's just, there we go. And I got a flawless revenge as well, which means that I get a bonus for that. And you can choose to go around and look through the level and see if there's any stuff you missed, or you can just teleport back, which also gives you any errant coins that are in the level, and boom, there you are. This is kind of the loop, and it's not a bad loop. Like I said, I'm kind of surprised this game isn't on consoles, especially something like the Switch, because this really feels like a game that's good for that sort of portable, I only got 15 minutes, let's do something kind of thing. If you're someone who's a big hardcore ARPG player, yeah, this might not do it for you. You may look at this and go, this is too simple. And it is a little bit more simple, but there's something to be said for that too. And I think there's room for both types of games like that. And Yeah, the graphics are not state of the art, but they look decent enough. You know, everything about this it's still well made. And again, in the context of a small team who cranks out as many games as they do, the fact that they managed to keep this level of quality where they do is quite impressive. You know, you're not starved for ARPGs right now. Far from it, in fact. There's there's almost a glut of them these days. So they're targeting a very specific group of people with this. And this may not be for everyone, but I've definitely enjoyed it. Will I finish it? I'm not sure, to be honest with you, because I do have time for a lot of those bigger titles, and Lord knows I've got a backlog as long as my arm. But this is enjoyable. I could see myself keeping it installed and just poking at it once in a while, and it may take me forever to finish it if I ever do, but it's something where, you know, you do a couple of runs here, a couple of runs there, and after a few months, you're like, hey, look, I'm mostly near the end. So you see here, I'm in the second area now, so you're seeing we've got very different kinds of enemies, different kinds of environments. Those guys are infuriating because they explode into AoE stuff when you take them out. There's an enemy in Dead Cells that's very much like that as well. And, you know, it has enough content and enough variety and enough challenge to keep you engaged while taking out a lot of the extraneous, more complicated elements of ARPGs that are not a bad thing, but are definitely much more of a time sink. This just focuses on the raw action, and though it may be simplified, it still does that really well. It still plays well. When you have a complex, gnarly battle like some of the ones I fought, you definitely, you know, you'll be white-knuckling the controller for sure, trying to get yourself through it. And if you've got someone you can play this with locally or over something like Parsec, that's even better. You know, games like this, they didn't forget that games like this are almost always better in co-op as well. And they didn't forget the necessity of that either. So, you know, it ticks a lot of the boxes that I think ARPG fans will enjoy without necessarily being the level of commitment that those games are, and it's priced appropriately. It's only $15 US. You're not paying a huge amount for this, so there's a healing shrine. That's a good thing. So I think it strikes a balance very well, which again is something that 10 Tons does very well. And, you know, they're kind of an old faithful developer. You can always generally count on the fact that when they put something out, it's going to be solid, and they know the niche that they're living in, but it's something they thrive in very, very well. So you can already see how kind of gnarly it's getting here. See, things like this, it still gives you the white knuckle thrill of battle at times like this. And this is still relatively early in the game. In some of the latter areas, I imagine this is probably going to be no pushover and probably require, you know, for $15 you could get yourself a lot of hours out of this, I think. Definitely. So yeah, that is Skeletal Avenger, and it's out on PC right now. Doesn't seem to be on anywhere else, so hopefully that will change at some point, because some of 10 Ton's recent games have come out on just about anything with a screen, so but they don't seem to have done a lot with this one. So hopefully we'll see more. We'll see this on more things at some point, because I think this would be fun for a wide variety of people. So yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did like what you saw here, please do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and you can also follow me over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction, where I do multiple variety live streams a week. We cover a lot of games over there that you won't necessarily see here, games that are better suited to a streaming format. We have a great small community over there, and I would absolutely love to see you. And let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Tell me, do you know of any other good ARPGs, whether casual or otherwise? There's no shortage of them. So, are 10 Tons the first to do something of this more casual nature that you've seen, or are there other titles out there that I haven't thought of? I'd love to hear about them. So, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you all on the next Indie Showcase. You folks have yourselves a great one. Take it easy.